Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video on the Gooners and Gloves Podcast channel. In today's video, it's going to be the 15th Gooners and Gloves Podcast, and I'm going to be reacting to the fight between Jack Catterall and Regis Prograis that took place last night. Of course, a fantastic performance by Jack Catterall to win the WBO Super Lightweight International Championship and put himself in line for a world title shot. Massive respect to both. Of course, a very entertaining fight. They both showed skills, they both showed heart out there, and it was just a really good fight that I enjoyed watching. Huge respect to Regis Prograis for how humble he was super humble in defeat, and gave Jack Catterall all the props and respect, which we really do love to see. And of course, props to Regis Prograis for showing so much heart in there. He was dropped twice in the same round, but he kept going, he kept fighting, and ultimately it did go the full 12 rounds. So I'm just going to kind of break down what I thought of the fight, how it went, and I am actually happy to announce that I got the prediction completely bang on. So my prediction in the podcast I uploaded a couple of weeks ago was that Catterall would win by unanimous decision, and that's exactly what happened. So that's pretty cool. I think it was 117, 108, and then 116, 109 twice, all in favor of Jack Catterall. So it's always cool to get a prediction right, and I thought I'd just go on and put that up there. So I did actually get the prediction completely bang on. I said Catterall would win by unanimous decision, and that's exactly what happened. So yeah, pretty much let's just get into sort of how the fight went kind of across the 12 rounds. So as expected, the first 4 rounds were kind of just, a bit just they were just feeling each other out. The thing is, when you're a southpaw going up against it, because the thing is, they're both southpaws, right? Both of them. So when a southpaw goes up against a southpaw, it's a lot more difficult just because as much as being a southpaw is typically considered an advantage in boxing, because not many people go up against you, when you go up against a fellow southpaw, that advantage kind of gets negated, because then again you don't go up against many southpaws. A southpaw boxer in their career, the majority of their opponents are going to be orthodox fighters, which, if you don't know, orthodox is right-handed and then southpaw is left-handed. So a southpaw fighter across their career, the majority of fighters they're going to come up against are going to be right-handed orthodox fighters, and only occasionally will they go up against southpaws. So because they were both southpaws, as expected, they were kind of just trying to feel each other out, get that right jab going. And in particular, I felt that Jack was really using his backhand well, his left hand, and throughout the night the left hand was just landing like a sniper rifle for Jack Catterall. This was so effective, specifically the overhand left and also the left cross. These two punches were absolute money makers for Jack Catterall across the night. They were landing so well, and Prograis, for the most part, did take them well, but he was getting hit with them a lot, and that accuracy from the left hand was fantastic from Jack Catterall. Really good stuff. He was landing the overhand left and the overhand left and the left cross just throughout the whole night. Seriously, those punches were so effective. They had so much power behind them, and Prograis was really feeling them. But anyway, across the first 4 rounds, they were kind of just feeling each other out. It was a bit more just cagey. They were both sort of landing their shots, obviously both trying to get the jab established. Of course, that's always a big thing when it's southpaw against southpaw. You always want to get that right jab going and really get it landing. Of course, as I said, Jack Catterall was using his backhand really effectively, and as expected, Prograis was just trying to close the distance. Of course, there is a slight reach advantage in favor of Jack Catterall, so Prograis was just trying to sort of close that distance, get on the inside, and he did manage this a few times, but again, Catterall's movement was really good at stopping him from doing this. But of course, a few times Prograis did manage to get in there, put the pressure on, land some shots. But yeah, the first 4 rounds were fairly even, relatively even 4 rounds. Could have really gone either way. They're just, as in most 12 round fights, the first 4 rounds are always going to be fairly even, just kind of go either way. And especially when it's a fight like this, when you've got 2 skilled fighters, and especially when you've got 2, because the thing is, they're both southpaws, but they also both have good records against fellow southpaws. Like, both of them have really good records against fellow southpaws. So as expected, there was, they were just trying to kind of land each other, because it's difficult when you're going up against a good southpaw. It's always going to be hard. So the first 4 rounds were just quite even. The jab exchanges were landing. Catterall was just slightly ahead, but not by a lot. Like, all in all, it was just a very even first 4 rounds. They were kind of just feeling each other out, landing the stuff. Mainly it consisted of Catterall sort of landing combinations, getting the left hand going. Meanwhile, Prograis was, doing a lot of feinting, slipping, trying to get on the inside, throwing some shots, which were landing sometimes, although were a bit wild. And that's something I felt Prograis was doing throughout the whole night. His shots were just far too wild, so a lot of the time Catterall was able to move out the way. And we did see numerous times throughout the night how Prograis would throw really wild, like really scrappy punches, and it would actually result in him falling down. Like, he would literally lose his footing, fall down, and we saw that several times throughout the fight. But yeah, that's sort of how the first 4 rounds went. Just kind of slow. Both men, it was very even. These rounds really could have gone either way. There just wasn't really like a huge amount going on in them. So yeah, the first 4 rounds quite even. Both just looking to sort of feel each other out, get the jab going, get the combinations. Prograis looking to close the distance. Catterall looking to keep him at bay with the jab and the left hand. But yeah, that was the first 4 rounds, just quite even, and not really too much to report on. And again, the first 4 rounds really could have gone either way. However, the fight, I would say, started catching fire from the 5th round, and specifically this was due to an incident where officially it was ruled a knockdown. So what happened is Prograis landed a really nice counter jab, so Catterall went for one of his left hands, but this time Prograis read it really well, countered and hit a really nice jab, and it was around like Catterall's shoulder area. It did land really nicely. However, Catterall did stumble back, and officially this was ruled a knockdown, and this was kind of controversial, and you did hear the crowd booing. However, in boxing, the rule is that if any punch lands on you that results in you putting your hand or your knee on the ground, officially that is ruled a knockdown, and officially it's called a knockdown. It's called a 10-8. So I feel like from the TV angle, it was a bit hard to actually see whether Catterall's knee or his hand touched the ground. To me, it seemed like it did, but remember, the referee's going to have a much better view than we have on TV, so I would say the referee did get that decision right. Catterall's knee, I think it was either his hand or his knee, one of them did definitely touch the ground. It was a bit hard to tell from the angle, but I would say that he definitely did touch down, and again, it's harsh. I do get why people feel it's harsh and really shouldn't count, but it is the rules of boxing. If you get hit with any sort of punch and it results in you losing your balance or hitting the ground in any form, then it is officially a knockdown. So that's when I felt the fight kind of started to catch fire, because of course that was considered a 10-8 round for Regis Prograis, which was pretty big. You know, that's always a big advantage, especially given how close the first 4 rounds were. The fact that he now headed into the 6th round with a 10-8 round in his belt was massive for Regis Prograis. So yeah, that's kind of when I felt the fight started picking up, and of course after that it was starting to get a bit more wild, a bit more scrappy for the rest of that round. But of course Regis Prograis walked away from that round with a 10-8, and clearly Catterall knew this, because he immediately started to become more aggressive, because if you giving up a 10-8 round is always, it's a big deal. It is a big advantage for the other opponent. So I feel from round 6 onwards is when the fight really began to catch fire. They were both Prograis was just, I feel like, getting a bit more wild, but by this point I think that Catterall really began to read his rhythm, and that, as I said, that left hand was landing pretty much at will by this point, just because Prograis kind of just erratic rhythm, like it was like Catterall was starting to read it. So now whenever Prograis would try to get on the inside, Catterall would land really good counter shots. He would land really good punches. He would slip out the way so that he can move, because that's another key thing for Catterall. His movement on this night was fantastic. He was able to really use his ring to his full advantage and just kind of keep Prograis away. And Prograis, naturally, as he began to get slightly more frustrated, kind of just tried to swing his way in, and several times this led to a knockdown. I think around the 6th or 7th round, he went for like a huge overhand left, and what ended up happening is he literally, like, he missed it, but then literally he ended up pulling Catterall down, like full on. He just completely went down. I felt like I was watching a wrestling match, seriously. Like, he literally just practically grabs him and they both just go down, and it was crazy to watch. But yeah, that's kind of how it started going from the 6th round onwards. Just kind of really scrappy from Prograis. Really good shots landed by Catterall. He really just began to have control. The combination punches, that's the thing. Catterall has really fast hands, and the combinations he was landing were just excellent. And again, really keeping Prograis at bay. I'm not saying Prograis wasn't landing anything. He definitely was. He was still landing some shots. Naturally, when you're throwing a lot and you're throwing quite like hard to read, difficult punches, like some of them are definitely going to get through. And so definitely Catterall was still being hit by this point, but Catterall was a lot more in control by this point. He was landing good. The jab was also effective, but as I said, the main thing for Catterall was that left hand. It was just an absolute sniper throughout the night. The left cross, the left overhand right, it was absolutely excellent, and it was just brilliant to see. But yeah, so that's kind of how the 6th and 7th went. Not just completely dominated by Catterall, but definitely much more comfortable from Catterall. Like, Catterall did clearly, was clearly beginning to establish his his dominance in this fight. So that was kind of how the 6th and 7th went, just a bit more in control from Catterall. Still stuff being landed by Prograis, but by this point he was becoming a lot more wild, a lot more scrappy, and that was causing him to lose his balance, and therefore allowing Catterall to hit good shots. And as I mentioned, there were several times throughout these rounds where at one point Prograis literally just swung and then he fell down, and then the other time, as I said, he did a huge swing, he missed it, and then as a result of the momentum just ended up pulling Catterall down with him. It was so crazy to see. But anyway, we move on to the 8th round, and in this one Catterall had something that many people felt should have been a knockdown, and to be honest, I do agree, it did seem like a knockdown, but the referee ruled it a slip. So I think he ended up landing a punch, and like the follow through kind of like, basically it did seem like Prograis was slightly wobbled and he went down, but the referee felt that maybe he just slipped, and maybe he did. It did seem like a knockdown to me. However, the referee didn't call it, so Prograis, it was ruled a slip, so that wasn't a knockdown. But by this point it was clear, it was clear who the winner was going to be. And then the 9th round was, of course, by far Catterall's best round. He knocked Prograis down twice. First time with a fantastic overhand left, really well landed, huge shot. And fair play to Prograis, got up instantly, like he literally just immediately got up. So it was clearly a flash knockdown, that overhand left in round 9. It was clearly a flash knockdown, because, and if you don't know, a flash knockdown just means when, you're not actually hurt, but you still go down. But like, And it was clear that he wasn't that hurt because he got up instantly, literally, I think, but he was up by the time the referee reached 3. But of course, from there, Catterall still put on the pressure, and eventually he was able to knock him down again, this time with a really nicely landed 1-2. So he threw the right jab, and then again, the left cross just absolutely landed to perfection, knocked Prograis down. Again, Prograis showed the heart and he got up, but by this point it was pretty clear. And then pretty much from round 10 to 12, it was essentially all Catterall by this point. And Prograis by this point had completely just, he just started to throw really, really scrappy, wild punches. And it's understandable why he was doing it, because by this point, it was clear that Catterall was the better boxer. And Prograis had to resort to more like, to essentially just trying to make it a bit more into a brawl. And again, occasionally he had success. Occasionally he was making Jack Catterall a bit uncomfortable. But as I said, throughout this round, I think in like round 11, he threw this massive swing and he just went down so hard. I think this was probably the time where it was the most apparent in round 11, when he throws this huge, massive overhand left, like huge, very, very, very wild, and he ended up going down. But yeah, and when I say down, I just mean like because of the sheer momentum of the punch, he falls down himself, he trips over. So he's not being knocked down, he's just throwing punches that are like just so, basically just so powerful that he's basically he's throwing himself on the ground, because obviously Catterall was able to move away. But yeah, rounds 10 to 12 was all Catterall by this point. He'd completely discovered, he'd completely just read Prograis' rhythm, managed to outland him, managed to out-hustle, throw the combination punches. And as I said, Prograis by this point was essentially defeated, and so was basically throwing like quite wild punches, just hoping that something would land. And it's understandable by this point, when you're trailing on the scorecards, it's all you can really do is just go for broke, and that's exactly what Prograis did, and fair play to him for that. He clearly didn't give up, he went for broke, he tried his best, but ultimately Catterall was just clearly in control by that point, and he rounded it off. And as I mentioned before, he went on to win by unanimous decision, 117-109, 116-108, 116-108 as the 3 scorecards, and that now puts him in line for a world title shot, and I'm obviously super excited to see it. Again, massive respect to both men, huge respect to Prograis. He showed the heart of a lion out there, massive props, huge respect to Prograis, very, very humble in the post-fight, basically in the post-fight interview, was very humble, gave Catterall his props. He even said how he felt Catterall's the best opponent he ever faced. And yeah, we don't see that often enough in boxing, so props to Prograis for doing that. We don't see that often enough in boxing, boxers just admitting that the other guy was the better man. So massive respect to Prograis for that. And again, just for the heart he showed, the whole night he was throwing punches, he was swinging. It didn't matter how far behind he was on the scorecards, it didn't matter that he'd been dropped, he still went for it, he still went for broke, he still showed heart, he still went for the punches, and massive respect to him for that. And of course, huge respect to Jack Catterall for a fantastic performance, really, really composed, a deserved victory, and this now puts him in line for a world title shot. And it's great to see, because again, in my opinion, Catterall should have, Catterall was robbed against Josh Taylor in the first fight, the fight from back in February 2022, when it was for the undisputed, I think it was lightweight or super lightweight world titles. And in my opinion, Catterall should have been a world champion all the way back then. He beat Josh Taylor that night and was unfortunately robbed by the judges, so he should have won the world title that night. He should have been undisputed, but alas, that is the past, and now he has another opportunity to become world champion, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it, and I really hope he can become world champion. Of course, Catterall is just a great fighter, someone who, definitely a fighter that I've really enjoyed watching in his past few fights. He's obviously on a great winning streak, and I think it's definitely his time to go on and fight for a world title. And again, even Regis Prograis agreed with that in the post-fight interview. But yeah, to conclude, a really entertaining fight, massive respect to both, huge respect to Prograis, huge respect to Catterall, a really entertaining fight throughout, loads of wild, crazy moments, and just a great night of boxing. So massive respect to both men, a really good fight. Please let me know what you thought of it down below. But yeah, I think without further ado, that's going to do it for this reaction podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed this fight. I actually did end up getting the prediction right. And as I said, respect to both. But anyway, that's going to do it for this reaction podcast. So I am going to be releasing my Arsenal-Liverpool reaction podcast tonight. So right now it's currently 11 a.m. and the game's at about 4:30. So I'll probably look to have the podcast out by about 7:30 or 8, so I will be uploading again today, so please look out for that. Really, really looking forward to the Arsenal-Liverpool game, and as I said, I figured, you know what, why not just upload them on the same day? Obviously, the Catterall Prograis fight just took place, and, I was like, you know what, I'll just upload them on the same day. So do look forward to my other upload coming out later today, probably at about 7:30 or 8 p.m. That's when my Arsenal-Liverpool reaction podcast will come out. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all the support. Please let me know down below what you thought of the Catterall Prograis fight. Let me know essentially, if you watched it, just what you thought, what your thoughts were, and who Catterall should fight next, and whether you do believe that Catterall will become world champion or not. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Remember to follow the TikTok and the Twitter pages that can be seen on screen. Remember to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications for more podcasts. Remember to watch out for the Arsenal Liverpool reaction podcast coming out later today. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys with another podcast later today. Peace.